They always said we were sisters, same brown eyes, same laugh sometimes. We even had matching backpacks in elementary school. But deep down we couldn't have been more different. Alia was fire, loud, wild, fearless. She once dyed her hair blue just to prove a point to a teacher. I was the opposite, quiet, cautious, always watching, always wondering how we could possibly come from the same people. Still, everyone treated us like a set. The girls, our parents called us, like we came in a bundle. Even when we fought, and we did, often it was just sisters being sisters. That's what everyone said. But what if we weren't? It wasn't a thought that crossed my mind, not even once. Not until the day we buried our grandmother. She had lived alone in that old house for years. Dusty corners, yellowed curtains, drawers full of strange keepsakes. The kind of house that breathes memory. After the funeral, while everyone gathered in the kitchen, I slipped away upstairs. Maybe I wanted to be alone, or maybe something in that house called me. In her bedroom, tucked under the bed, I found a photo album. Thick, heavy, bound in cracked leather. I thought it would be full of childhood pictures, me and Alia on the beach, blowing candles on cakes, silly faces with ice cream. But it wasn't. The photos were older, people I didn't recognize, a woman in a nurse's uniform, a man with sad eyes, and behind one of the pages a folded note, thin paper, shaky handwriting. It read, "To the girl I never got to raise, I hope one day you'll find this. I named you Lena." My hands started shaking. I read it again and again. The words didn't change. It was signed, "With love, your real mother." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Real mother. I stared at the album like it might vanish. Like maybe I imagined the note, but it was real. The ink, the folds, the scent of old paper. Too real to ignore. I ran my fingers over the name Lena, as if it would open a door. As if this stranger from the past might appear in the room and explain everything. Who was she? Why did she write this? Why was it hidden in my grandmother's house? And why had no one ever told me? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the laughter of my sister, echoing from across the hall. Could she have known? Did my parents lie to us both? Or only to me? I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to. The way my mother avoided old family stories. How she always dodged questions about the day I was born. The lack of baby photos of me compared to Alia. At the time, I thought it was just forgetfulness. Now I wasn't so sure. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't say a word. But inside, everything was unraveling. I watched Alia with new eyes, her recklessness, her ease around our parents. Did she always feel like she belonged? And I just hadn't noticed how much I didn't. One evening, while Alia was yelling at Dad over some trivial fight, I stared at them and thought, am I even a part of this family? And the scariest part was I didn't know the answer. I considered burning the note, forgetting I ever found it. Pretending my life was what I always believed it was. But how could I, now that the seed of doubt had taken root? What if my real mother was still out there? What if she had wanted me all these years? But also, what if reaching out shattered everything I knew? That's the thing about secrets. They don't just change the story, they change you. I started to pull away. Not on purpose, it just happened. I stopped calling home when I was out late. Stopped asking my mom for advice. I avoided Alia's jokes. Her loud laughter now grated on me, like I didn't belong in the room where it echoed. I became a stranger in my own family, but still I said nothing. I carried that note everywhere, tucked into a book, hidden in my backpack. Some nights I unfolded it just to read those words again, to the girl I never got to raise. I imagined her face. I imagined her voice. I imagined her arms around me like something I never knew I was missing, and then came the guilt. How could I think about another mother when this one raised me, fed me, held me when I had nightmares, took me to ballet classes even though I had no rhythm, sat by my side when I was sick, fought for me in school meetings? Was all of that a lie, Or was it real love, even if it started from a secret? One night, months later, I heard my parents arguing behind the kitchen door. I wasn't supposed to hear, but I did. She's pulling away. My mom whispered, "It's happening. She doesn't know anything." My dad said, "She found something. I feel it." The blood froze in my veins. I wasn't imagining it. They knew. They always knew. And they chose silence. That same night, I stood outside my mother's room with the note in my hand. I could hear her inside, humming softly, folding laundry. A completely ordinary moment, but everything in me wanted to shatter it. I walked in and laid the note on her lap. She didn't speak for a long time. She just stared at the paper. Her fingers trembled, just like mine had when I first found it. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "I hoped you'd never find this." And then she told me the truth. I wasn't theirs, not at first. I was born to a young woman who couldn't raise me. She left me at the hospital, and for weeks no one came forward. My mom, the woman who raised me, worked in administration there. She saw me every day in the nursery. She said she fell in love through the glass. They weren't planning to adopt, but something about me. She said she just couldn't walk away. And then she broke. I was afraid, she said. Afraid that if I told you you'd leave, that I'd lose you. I didn't know what to say. There were no words for how I felt. Rage, sadness, relief, gratitude, betrayal, all tangled into one unbearable silence. My father stood in the doorway, eyes red. "You're our daughter," he said, "no matter what." But something inside me had shifted. The story I grew up with was gone. The map of who I thought I was had just been torn apart. I walked out of the room without saying a word. And that night, for the first time in my life, I Googled her name, the one signed at the bottom of the note. My real mother, she existed, a real woman, not a ghost, not just handwriting on paper, but should I reach out? What if she had a new life, a family that didn't know about me? What if I was just a scar from her past that she never wanted opened again? What if she didn't want me, but what if she did? I didn't sleep that night. My laptop glowed in the dark like some portal to another life. I stared at her photo. Her name was Vera. She lived 2 cities away, worked in a small flower shop. There was a social media page, barely active, no pictures of kids, just bouquets, sunflowers, peonies. The kind of thing that felt gentle. I didn't message her, not that night, not for many nights. Instead, I started visiting the shop. Pretending I was just browsing, watching her from across the room. She looked like me, the curve of her chin, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. It was like staring at a mirror that had been missing all my life. One time I bought lilies. She smiled and said, "These are my favorite. Mine too. Coincidence or blood?" I left in silence, heart racing. I did this 3 times before I finally cracked. I walked in, hands shaking, and said, "I think you're my mother." She froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I showed her the note, watched the color drain from her face. And then, slowly, she nodded. Tears welled up in her eyes. She whispered, "Lena." And for the first time in my life, I heard my name spoken like it had roots. We sat in the back of the shop for hours. No customers, no distractions, just stories. She told me about her past, how young she'd been, how scared, how alone, how every birthday she lit a candle for a daughter she never held. She never married, never had more children. "I didn't want to replace you," she said. I didn't cry, not then. I think I was too overwhelmed to feel one single thing. All I knew was that my world had just split in 2, and I stood in the middle. I told her I had a sister, a family, people who loved me. She smiled sadly. "I'm glad you were loved." The ride home was quiet and cold. I kept looking at my reflection in the train window, trying to decide if I still looked like me or someone new entirely. When I got home, Alia was sitting on the couch, flipping through her phone. She looked up. "Where were you?" And I just said, "Nowhere." How could I tell her? How could I explain that the girl she shared a room with, fought over clothes with, grew up beside, was never really her sister. But maybe, in some strange way, I still was. Because love doesn't disappear just because truth shows up. Still, I needed time. For a while, I stopped going to family dinners. I said I was busy with work, with life. But in reality, I was standing at a crossroads. Two mothers, one gave me life, the other gave me love. Was I supposed to choose? Weeks passed, then months. I visited Vera again, not often, but enough. We talked more. About small things, music, movies. I told her about my job, my childhood. She listened like someone trying to catch up on years that had vanished. She never asked for more than I could give, and maybe that's what made it easier. But at home, silence lingered. My mother, the one who raised me, gave me space. She didn't bring it up. She didn't ask where I disappeared to every few weekends. I think she knew. I think she was afraid to confirm it. Alia, on the other hand, grew suspicious. "You've changed," she said once. "You don't even talk to me anymore." I wanted to tell her. I wanted to explain everything, but I was afraid of what it would do to her. To us, would she feel betrayed? Would she stop seeing me as family? And maybe the deeper fear, would I stop seeing her that way? Because something had shifted between us. Not love, but something more subtle. Like we were both holding on to a version of the past that was slowly crumbling. And neither of us wanted to admit it. One night it came to a head. Alia burst into my room. "I know you're hiding something," she snapped. "I'm not stupid." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I couldn't lie anymore, so I told her. All of it, the note, the woman, the truth. She stared at me for a long time, then said, "So you're not even my real sister." And that hurt more than anything. "Does it matter?" I asked. She didn't answer, just left the room. That silence between us stretched for days. Until one morning, she slid a photo under my door, us, on our bikes, covered in mud, laughing like idiots. I hadn't seen that picture in years. On the back, she'd written, "Sisters aren't always about blood." That was Alia. Dramatic, but honest, and that was the first step back. A week later, I sat down with my parents, all three of them. We cried, we yelled, we apologized, we said things that should have been said long ago, and in the end, we chose something hard. We chose truth, because pretending hadn't saved us. It had only delayed the pain, but truth, raw and messy as it was, gave us a new beginning. One that didn't erase the past, but honored all of it. I still visit Vera. I still come home for dinners. Sometimes they even happen in the same week. And no, it's not perfect, but families rarely are. Some are built on blood. Some are built on choice. Mine, somehow, is both. And maybe that's the most honest kind of love there is. Subscribe if you're still thinking about this story. There are more, and they might just hit a little too close to home. I used to think identity was something fixed, something you're born with, like eye, color, or fingerprints. But it's not. It shifts, it stretches, it breaks and rebuilds, and sometimes it surprises you. When I look back now, I don't feel angry. Not the way I thought I would. I feel grateful, grateful for the woman who gave me life, grateful for the one who raised me, grateful for the sister who chose me again, even after the truth came out. But it took time to get there. There were nights I questioned everything, who I would have become if Vera had kept me, what kind of life I missed, what kind of person she was back then, and why no one gave her a second chance. There's a kind of grief that comes with learning your past wasn't what you believed. A quiet, invisible kind, like mourning someone who never existed, the version of yourself that was built on fiction. But when the grief passes, something new takes its place, clarity. I stopped seeing my life as broken. I started seeing it as chosen. Vera didn't raise me, but she gave me something else, a fuller picture. A truth I didn't even know I needed. And my mom, the woman who raised me, she gave me love every single day. Even if it began with a lie, it never felt like one. People say blood is thicker than water. but they never mention that trust is thicker than both. And trust, that's what we had to rebuild. Now, when we sit together at the same table, me, Alia, my parents, and sometimes even Vera, there's this quiet understanding. We're all flawed, all stitched together by mistakes and love and secrets and forgiveness, and we're still a family. A strange one, a complicated one, but real, the kind that survives even after the ground falls out beneath it. And sometimes that's the kind that matters most. I used to envy people who had simple stories. You know, the kind born, raised, loved, no questions asked. No secrets hidden in boxes. No sudden cracks in the foundation. But now I don't envy them, because my story, messy as it is, gave me something more valuable than simplicity. It gave me perspective. I learned that family isn't defined by what the birth certificate says. It's defined by presence, by the people who stay when you break, by the ones who choose you again, even when they have the chance to walk away. Alia still calls me idiot when I forget to text back. She still steals my clothes. She still argues like it's an Olympic sport. But when I told her I was going to see Vera on Mother's Day, she handed me a bouquet of lilies and said, "Give her these, from both of us." No drama, no tension, just a gesture, and that meant everything. As for Vera, she doesn't try to play the role of a mother now. She doesn't need to. She's become something quieter, steadier, a presence I never expected, but one I've come to treasure. And my parents, they've changed too. There's more honesty in the house now, more pauses before words. They've learned that protecting someone with silence only delays the pain, it doesn't prevent it. And me. I'm still learning how to live in two truths at once, that I was given up, and that I was chosen, that I was lied to, and that I was loved. Both can be true at the same time, and maybe that's what growing up really is, not chasing one absolute story, but learning how to hold all the pieces and still stand. So if you're watching this and wondering what secrets might be hiding in your own family, just know, the truth might hurt. But silence, it rots everything it touches. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to know. Because sometimes the truth is exactly what you need to finally feel whole. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. There's more to come, and some of them might sound a lot like yours.